Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. This might be a longer video because I'm gonna do like a straight up walkthrough, and I don't really have any plan at all. I'm completely winging this, but if and when I end up finishing this, I'm gonna post the model down below in the description so you guys can check it out, and then however method I did it, you can use that method to make this version like your own in your own game or whatever. I'm basically gonna be trying to create a boss health. I don't want to say system, but like a boss health type of thing. So, like for example, I'm gonna have like a boss. Yeah, that worked out perfectly. But I'm gonna have a boss, and then when you get near the boss, it's gonna display the health. This video is inspired by a comment that I got a while ago, but I wasn't able to make the video at the time. So if you're watching this, thanks for the idea, and I hope this helps you. But yeah, I want to start off by having our boss. Let's just call this boss. Yeah. So because there's like a lot of ways you can go about this, but I'm just gonna do this in my way. I'm gonna do this my way. So, yeah. So we're gonna start off by having our boss. And then for our boss, let me anchor him. You don't have to anchor him. I'm gonna anchor him, right? I'm gonna add a script inside of our boss. I'm gonna add a folder first. Call this maybe like I don't know. I'm not good with names, but I'm gonna call it manager, and I'm gonna add a script in here, and I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna call this approach script. Okay, it's gonna be the approach script. How much you want to bad spell approach wrong? I'm gonna also add some other things. I'm gonna add a event here. I'm gonna actually make this a remote event, right? I'm gonna use this plugin. If you guys don't have this plugin, I recommend getting it. Sometimes it makes things a bit easier and quicker. This is the what is this? The reclass plugin. I'm gonna have it linked down below in the description for you. If I forget to do that, somebody please remind me in the comments if there's even anyone watching this video. But yeah, so I'm gonna put a remote event here. I'm gonna name the remote event approach. You can name these things whatever you want to name them. I'm just not good at naming stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna name this approach or boss approach or something. I don't know, boss approach. Right. Cool. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a quick GUI. Let me actually slow down. Right. Actually, no. Let's go back. I'm gonna make a screen GUI here. We're gonna name screen GUI boss health, and then we're gonna just make a quick health bar. I might speed this up depending on how fast this goes. Oh my goodness, I actually hate when this happens, dude. Okay, there we go. I don't even know what that is. Alright, so I'm gonna take this here and then that. Go to anchor properties. I'm gonna say 0.5, 0, and then we can just put the position, make sure it's centered. 0.5, right, and that is like nice rounded numbers. So maybe this one, right, and then that's gonna be the frame for the health. We're gonna actually add the health bar, right, and then we're gonna make this same thing, but this time I'm gonna do 0.5 for the anchor point. Make the position 0.50, 0.50, and then we're gonna take the size to be about 80% of the parent frame size, and then we're gonna do 15% of the parent frame size on the y-axis. That's not even. Is that even, that is 15%? Yeah, that's 15. What am I talking? Yeah, I'm gonna say 25%. That too, right? This is gonna be for the health bar. Let's bring this down a bit. Okay, this is not good position. I want us to do. No, that's too high. I'm gonna say 75% down, right? 65% down, maybe, right? And then we're gonna do transparency like that. We're gonna make this add a corner to this health bar. I'm gonna copy this, paste this in here. I'm gonna delete the corner. I'm gonna rename this to bar. I'm going to size this 1010, but I'm going to change the position to 000 and make sure the anchor point for this is 00. Yep. I'm gonna change the color for this to green. I'm gonna change the color of this to black, right? I think black is not a wow. So the color for the bar or the frame that's holding the actual bar is black, and then the color for the bar itself is green. I think I'm gonna add the cornerback because it doesn't really make sense. Or okay, I'm gonna add the cornerback and then change the corners to two, right? Yeah, alright, that's cool. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm also gonna add another text label here. Um, because I'm feeling a bit lazy, I'm gonna just clone this and I'm gonna delete everything in here, and then use the reclass plugin to reclass this to a text label, right? So now it's gonna have the same size. Just do the transparency. Make the background transparency 1, and then the health. No, I mean the font. Let's make the font text scale, and then change the name to just boss name for now, or just boss. I'm gonna position this a bit higher though, so maybe like that. I'm gonna say actually no, putting 3 is good, right? And then let me change the font a bit. I'm gonna make the font arcade, and then bold maybe. I think I'm going to give it a text stroke, but make the main text color. I'm gonna make the main text color white. That is not the main text color. The main text color is white. Cool. Yep. We can do the health display, like the numbers. So I'm gonna just copy this text label here, name it health display, and then for the size, we're just gonna do 1010, right? And then make sure the position is 0000, and the anchor point too. Make sure it's also 0 0. And then let's just have the default text to question mark, right? Because we don't know the health yet. That actually does not look that pretty. Let me just make this like Arial or something. That is terrible. Let me make this. I'm just not gonna get too deep into this. 'Cause I'm gonna be here forever. All right, so now we have our GUI done. Make sure when if you guys are just like copying and pasting and then changing the properties, make sure you're pasting them in the right places. If I were to paste this inside the actual bar, and I'm shrinking the bar, it's gonna like shrink the text, and we don't want that. So make sure it's inside the health bar holder. So the health bar. Let me rename this to health bar holder so it's a bit more clear. Yeah, health bar holder. Okay. Now, what's next? Okay, next is that we have our script done for this, right? And I'm gonna make another instance inside of this screen GUI. I'm gonna make a folder, and inside the folder, I'm gonna call it managers, and then I'm gonna place this inside the folder. I'm gonna place a local script inside this folder. Before we get into the local script, again, there's really a lot of different ways you can do this. I'm gonna do this I'm gonna do it with the more simplistic way, or the more simpler way. I don't want to get into all that extra. Yeah, I'm gonna just do it the easy way. Okay, so I'm gonna have some managers, and then let's just call this boss health manager, right? And then yeah, so now inside of this script, we can just start getting some of the properties. I'm gonna probably add another script to this. I'm gonna add a module script under this, right? So I want this script to just handle like getting different bosses and setting them, and I want to have the module script actually handling holding the functions to change the text and stuff. You get what I mean? So yeah, so inside this module, I'm gonna just do some reference some variables, or reference some of the GUI stuff. So I'm gonna do local main script .parent, local managers folder equals main script .parent, right? And we're gonna do local main equals managers for parent, and then local mainframe equals manager main heads up display wait for child frame, right? And now we're gonna do the health bar. So local health bar holder equals mainframe wait for child health bar holder local. I think I can just leave it here and then just cause I'm gonna use that a lot. So I'm just gonna local bar equals health bar wait for child bar, and then local health display equals health bar wait for child health display. I'm gonna indent these just because. And yeah, so now we're gonna make a couple of functions within the module. Our first one is gonna be, let's say, set up. Oh boy, let's say we're gonna make our first function setup, right? Equals function, and then we're gonna have a parameter, the info parameter. Info as a parameter. This is gonna be a table of different key value pairs, right? That will be used to basically set up the health bar. Okay, let's name this module script frame handler. Yeah, let's name the module script frame handler, and I'm gonna type this shared table just in case. But yeah, this function sets up the health or your boss health frame, right? So we do have main frame. The first thing we want to do, the last thing we want to do is we want to do main frame not visible equals true, right? Because after we set it up, we want to make sure the frame is visible, because initially this frame is going to be invisible. So yeah, so we want to make sure after we're done setting up, we make it visible again. Okay. All right. So the first thing we want to do, we want to make sure we get all the parameters that we need, or getting all the variables from the parameter. Okay. So getting variables, and let's say local boss model equals info.boss, and then we can do some other stuff. So local boss humanoid equals boss model find first, which is a humanoid, right? You can also just say find first child humanoid, but sometimes people change the name of the humanoid, so I'm just gonna do that just to make it easier, right? So then local boss model equals info.boss, and then boss humanoid. Yep. Find first child, which is a humanoid, and then now that you have that, we're gonna make the name depend on the model's name. Okay. So now that we have that, we're gonna start setting up some of the frame parts. We're gonna say main frame. Oh, we didn't even get the text name, right? We didn't get the boss. Did we get the boss name? I don't think we got the boss name. Yeah, I don't think we got the boss name. If I click here and then I make it visible, yeah. So we forgot to change. We gotta change this to health or boss name, right? Cool. All right, and then we do boss model. That's not true. So we have to actually reference that in the variable list or the variables. So we're gonna say local boss name equals health, or just main. Is it mainframe? Wait for child boss. Yeah. Wait for child boss name. All right. So now we're gonna begin the setup, right? So begin setup. We're gonna start up by changing the name. So we're gonna say boss name dot text, right, equals boss model dot name, right? And then we're gonna get the health, right? So we're gonna do local percentage equals boss humanoid dot health, I think I'm gonna just do it into pieces because I'm gonna start out by doing this. So local current health equals boss humanoid dot health, and then local max health equals boss humanoid dot max health, right? And then I can just do the percentage is gonna be the current health divided by the max health, and then we're gonna do the size. So we're gonna do the bar dot size equals udem2 dot from scale, and now we're gonna do percentage and 1, right? We're using from scale because it just allows us to set the size using only scale values instead of having to do scale offset, right? So getting the health, we set the health, and now we want to set the health display, right? Right, so health size, health display. We're gonna do health display dot text equals string dot string dot format. This is actually, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna use the other way, because doing it with string dot format might confuse some people. So we're gonna do toString, right? We're gonna do toString math dot floor current health, and then concatenate it with the backslash, concatenate that again with this. We're gonna do max health. Concatenate, basically it just means to put together, so we're putting together two strings, right? So yeah, now we're putting together the current health, the backslash with the max health. So it's gonna look something like this: 50 out of 100, like that, and replace that with that. Okay. All right, cool. So now we have the boss name, and then we have the size, and then we also have the display, right? And then now we can visualize the frame. So making the frame visible. Cool. All right. So that's the setup. We're gonna obviously have to do more things than just that. I'm gonna make one more table here called connections. Let me rename this module thing to library, right? Just because you can leave it as module if you want to, but I'm just gonna change it to library. So we're gonna have this called connections, right? And let me add just a thing right here. So I'm gonna do connections, disconnect. I'm gonna say function library dot library dot connections disconnect. Oh, I didn't spell that right. Right. This function. So this function disconnects all RBX script connections, right? I'm gonna say for underscore in pairs self do if type of, this is just a safeguard, but I don't think I would even need this, but if type of connections equals RBX script connection, then you want to just disconnect that. So the reason why I'm doing this is so I can just call this function from the table. So I can just do library dot connections and disconnect, and this is gonna disconnect any Roblox script connections that's in the table. So we're gonna be putting connections like health changed and died and all that stuff inside the connections table for the current boss that we have stored, if that makes any sense. So yeah. So yeah, so I'm gonna just leave that there. And yeah, so now we set that up, and we need to add, I think we need to only do one more function before we start working on the server side and the local script. So we're gonna do library that add connections, right, equals function, and then we're gonna pass in the module as the reference. right? And then again, just so we get the this right here is just, I think it's, I forgot what the actual name is, but I think it's something called uh somewhere around uh type casting, I think. But this basically allows you to get the hints while you're scripting. So if I did model dot and I can do ancestry change, it's giving me this autofill recommendation because I typecast the model variable as a model class. If I took that out and I try to do ancestry, you see I don't get the hints anymore. I don't get the autofill anymore. But once I do that, yeah, I can see it when I type it. So that's why I do that. It's really useful when you are using modules and you have these as the parameters and stuff. So like even with this one, even with this one itself, if I did library, let's say I was calling this function in a local script, right? And I did library.add connections. When I'm typing, when I'm typing the variable, we can see that it tells us that the first parameter is supposed to be a model, or like it's recommended to be a model, just in case you forget. Okay. All right, so let's continue. So this function adds in connections, or just say events, or just say this function handles events. Okay. We say this function handles events of the boss model, right? So this function handles events of the boss model. That probably makes no sense, but bro, my brain is fried. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not good with like explaining things, typing out things. But what we're gonna use this function for is to just control when the boss's health changes, if the boss dies, and if the boss for some reason just disappears from the game, right? So now we're gonna do this. We're gonna get the humanoid. I think we already have the humanoid here, right? Since we already have the humanoid here, I'm just gonna pass in the humanoid as well. Model, and they're gonna have humanoid. Humanoid, right? So now we're gonna say connecting health change, right? So we're gonna say humanoid dot health change connect. Let me actually just do this. So I'm gonna say local health, or on health changed signal, and then we're gonna set this equal to this, and then we're gonna just function, right? The best thing to probably do is to just have this as its own separate function. So I'm gonna have a function up here called on health changed, and then what this is gonna do is gonna just do everything that we have here, right? So on health change, I'm just gonna put in humanoid because I don't know exactly what it gets, what the event passes. So I'm gonna just put humanoid here, right? And then it's gonna just do all of that. So I'm gonna copy everything that we have here, right? And then paste this in here, right? We're gonna change boss humanoid to this, and this is gonna basically do the exact same thing that I explained here when I was implementing it in. So in here we'll just call the function manually, and then pass in the humanoid as the parameter, right? So now this is gonna set the size and the text display as well, if that makes sense. Alright, so we have begin setup. We're setting up the name. I'm just gonna say setting up name because this is making sense. Setting up name. This is probably so bad. So we're setting up the name, and then we're getting the health, right? We're just saying setting health size, right? And then making the frame visible, right? So now for here, we can do when the health changes, the humanoid health changes. We're gonna say we're gonna call the on health change function, and then we're gonna pass in the humanoid as the parameter, right? So then when the health changes, it's gonna just change the size as well as the text. Cool. Now we also want to connect connect death slash removal, right? Before we do that, I want to make sure we add one more function, and then we're going to make this function right here called, we're going to call this function clear, right? And what this function does is that this function clears the boss health display and makes it invisible. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do library, right? And then we're gonna go to the connections table, and then we're gonna call the disconnect function. This is gonna make sure it disconnects all the connections that we add into that function. So for example, this one will be disconnected. The health change event will be disconnected. So disconnecting. I probably spelled that so. Disconnecting disconnecting events. What am I saying? Just say disconnecting, right? And then we're gonna do clearing just GUI, right? Clearing the GUI. So we're gonna start off by just making everything equal to the default. We're gonna say name, boss name dot text equals boss name, and then boss health display dot text equals, and then we're gonna do this, and we're gonna say health bar, or just bar dot size equals udim 2 dot from scale 1, and then 1, right? And then before we do that, we actually want to make it invisible. We don't want the players to actually just see boss name and then all this stuff. We're going to make it invisible first. So making frame invisible. So frame mainframe dot visible equals false, right? And then yeah. So now that we have this, we can go back to the death removal, right? The death slash removal signals. So local on removed equals nil. On remove equals module dot ancestry chain connect function. If module doesn't equal workspace, or no, that's probably not a good one. So if module is a descendant of workspace, then if not module is a descendant of workspace, then you're going to call the clear function. So we're going to do library.clear. What this basically means is that if for some reason the boss just disappears from the workspace like so, it's going to just clear out the GUI. It's going to call the clear function. What is that? What just happened there, bro? Okay, that's just fantastic. Okay, but if for some reason it just disappears from the workspace, it's going to just like it's going to clear out the boss health GUI. If that makes sense. Cool. So local on remove, then yep. We're gonna do the exact same thing for the death. Connecting death. Well, I didn't put that because we did it top, right? Death, and then remove all. You don't need to put all these comments. I just put it in for me to understand, or me to remember, and for anyone else that needs it, that's watching the video, to understand what I'm doing. Okay? Or just make it easier to read. It probably does the exact opposite, but if it does do the exact opposite, I apologize. But let's continue. So local on death equals nil, right? And then on death equals we can just do humanoid.died connect function, right? Sometimes this event is, I don't know, I'm just gonna not say anything. But yeah, so I'm gonna connect this to the humanoid.died event, and then the same thing, we're gonna put this here but without the actual checks. We're gonna just clear the UI like so. Okay. Cool. All right, so yeah, we should be good here. And I think that's all we need for this module. Yeah, that should be all we need for this module. Oh nope, forgot one more thing. So now we're gonna do adding in inserting the connections. Yeah, so now we're gonna insert the connections into the connections table. So we're gonna do table.insert, right? Library.connections, and then we're gonna do we're gonna insert on health change signal. I'm gonna copy this 2 more times, and then I'm gonna insert the remove signal, and I'm gonna insert the death signal, right? Cool. All right, now that these are inserted, we're gonna now work on the local script. We're gonna start off by getting the replicated storage because that's where the boss approach remote event is. So replicated storage. This game get servers replicated storage. Nope, replicated storage. We're gonna do local main remote equals replicated storage. Wait for child boss approach. So if anyone actually uses this module and you want to put like this remote somewhere else, like in a folder, you can do that. Just make sure that you come back in this local script and you update the path for that remote event. Okay? Cool. Alright, so yeah, local replicated storage equals game get server replicated storage, and you have main remote. I like to indent this, make it more readable, right? And then we're gonna also get the library. So local frame library equals require script wait for child frame handler. And now we're gonna write in some of the functions. So local function on boss request, I guess, right? And what this function is gonna do is that this function takes in boss request, takes in boss display requests. I don't know, let's say boss health display request, right? And uses and calls the setup function in the frame library function in the frame library. Okay, so I'm gonna put in info as a parameter, and then it's also gonna be a table again, right? So I'm gonna just do shared table just to build the habit of always typing it if I know exactly what's gonna be, right? And then yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start getting the parameters, right? The actual variables from the table. So we're gonna say local boss equals info dot boss, right? And getting variables, right? And now I'm gonna now use this to call this this function, this setup function. So this one only has one parameter. Just in case I'll end up adding more, I'm going to leave the parameter as a table. But you could also just make this parameter just the boss model. But just in case I do need to add some sort of other parameter. Oh look, I just came up with one just now. So we want to have like a maximum distance that we actually see the boss's health, right? So that means that when this remote is fired, or like when this fires the client, we want to also pass in a maximum distance parameter, right? So we can do info dot max distance, or if there isn't a max distance for some reason, you can have a default one, right? So on the top, I'm going to make a constant variable. It's not really a constant, but just to stick with some coding standards that I came up with. I'm going to do I didn't come up with it, but you get it. All right, yeah, I'm going to do maximum distance equals 30 studs. So actually, no, I'm gonna put 40 studs because 50 studs because bosses tend to be big. So I'm gonna put 50 studs for the maximum distance. So the maximum distance variable is either gonna be whatever we find in here. Like if we find, so the maximum distance is gonna be the max distance key inside of this table, or if that doesn't exist, you want to set it to the max distance constant up here. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so now that we have that, we're gonna now call the setup function from the frame library. So we're gonna do frame library dot setup, and then we're gonna pass the table. We're gonna do boss equals boss, and then max distance equals max distance. Actually, I'm just naming max distance. Realistically, we could just pass in the info in here because that's literally the exact same setup. But just in case we don't have any of these, we can run some sanity checks here. Not sanity checks, but we can run some checks. Okay, we can do if boss, right? If boss equals nil, then return, right? Yeah, just in case. So this is checking to see if the boss actually exists, and then calling the setup function. Oh my goodness, calling the setup function, right? Cool. So now we can do main remote on client event connect on boss request. Now we're gonna go over here and we're gonna add in the logic for making sure that the player is within the range of, the boss, right? So let's also get this right here. Let's get this, say local max distance. I could have just named that radius or something, but whatever. Info dot, and then we're gonna say, copy this, info dot max distance, right? Cool. And then inside of add connections, we're also gonna pass in the max distance parameters. So we're gonna say max distance. This is a number. This is just a number, not a number value, right? And then when we call this, right, when we call the add connections, we didn't even call that. Okay, cool. So after we do the get the health, right, we're gonna implement connections. So implementing connections, right, and we're gonna do library dot add connections, and then we're gonna pass in the model. So boss model, we're gonna do humanoid, boss humanoid. We're gonna do, and then we're gonna do the max distance, right? I think that's the last parameter. Yeah, max distance. Cool. So now that we have that, we want to connect max distance. Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna have to use run service for this. So inside of here, we're gonna get the run service. So run service equals game get player, game get service. Sorry, and then we're gonna do run service. Now we have the run service. Spell that correctly, unlike me. Run service, right? And then we're going to do the connection. So local tracker connection equals nil, and then tracker connection equals run service dot. I'm gonna say render step connect function, right? And then define the delta time. We're gonna make sure we loop every half a second, just so it's not too much. So local step time equals 0.5. Local elapsed time, you can actually put elapsed time because that's a keyword. So local elapsed equals 0. We're gonna say let's just comment this as loop settings. Hello. And then we're gonna say elapsed plus equals delta time. Delta time if elapsed is less than step time, then return end, and then we're gonna reset it so elapsed equals 0. This here, what I just did, is the same thing as doing this. While true, do wait 0.5. So what I just did here is the exact same thing as doing this. It's just that when I do it with this, I am allowed to disconnect the loop. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But it's the same thing as doing this, but this one allows me to disconnect the loop when I add it into the connections connections table. Okay. All right. So we have that. So now that that's done, we can check the distance or check the current distance between the player and the boss. So to do that, we also have to make sure we have the player itself. Since this module script is going to be inside the local script and it's going to be called by a local script, we can just get the local player from the player service. So players equals game get service players, right? And then local actually, yeah, we can do that. I'm gonna say local. I'm gonna say local player equals players dot local player, right? So yeah, so now that we have that, we can start out by getting the player's character. So getting player's character, local rig equals player dot character. If not rig, then return n. So if for some reason we can't get the player's character, we just break out the loop or return out the loop. You can't use break because I think it's a run service, so you have to use return, right? So we don't break out the loop. We just like go back to the top, like we just restart the loop, right? So if the rig does exist, we can say local current position equals rig get pivot. Let me just do this, right? Model, right? So we're gonna do rig get pivot, and then that position, right? So get pivot just gets the general C frame of the model, and then you can just do the position to get the position from the C frame. So now we have the current position of our character, right? All right. Now we need to get the position of the boss. So boss position equals. Well, did we only pass the? Okay, we passed the model. Okay, so we can do the same thing. So model get pivot, and then that position, and local distance between is gonna be current position minus boss position, and then make sure you put the equal sign. Dot magnitude, right? So getting the player's character, right, and then getting the player's position. I'm gonna say players and boss's position, and then getting distance and comparing. So if that distance is greater than the max distance, then what we want to do is we want to clear. So we're going to say library.clear. And it's going to do the same. It's going to disconnect all the connections, and then it's going to reset the frame. You see what I'm saying? So that's cool. So we want to make sure we also add that into the connections table. So table.insert, and then library.connections. And then we do we add in the tracker connection. Okay. So yeah, that should be that. And now that we're done with this, we can hop into the actual server side of this. So inside of the boss, inside of whatever boss you're using, and like the script you have, make sure you also get the replicated stored. I'm gonna just copy this right here, because I don't really see the point of retyping it. So we're gonna paste this, and I'm gonna name this approach remote or whatever, right? And then the way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna say so I'm gonna say local min radius, or just say min distance. This is gonna be a constant, right? So I'm gonna say local min distance equals, let's say they have to be within 50 studs, right, to actually get the health, right? And then we can say, let's also put in run service, because we might still need run service. Yeah, we can use run service, because then or else we have to use a loop. So I'm gonna say run service equals game get service run service, right? And let me indent this, and then we can we're gonna make sure we get our module, right? So local boss equals script.parent. No, well, script.parent.parent, because the script.parent is the managers folder, and then the parent is gonna be the module, right? And then we're gonna say we're gonna do this local function get nearest players, and then we're gonna say this function gets the nearest players and return them as a table. Right, so we're gonna do for underscore. We're gonna have to make sure we get the players service too. So players goes game get service players. Right. So for underscore player in pairs player get children. Right. Do local rig goes player dot character. No character. If not rig. Then continue end, right? So here we're getting the players character. Oh no, I cannot spell that right. Players character, right? And we're gonna do checking distance from boss local rig position equals rig get pivot dot position local boss equals boss position, right? Equals boss get pivot dot position, and then local distance equals rig position minus boss position. Yeah, and then dot magnitude, right? If distance is greater or less than min distance, or less than or equal to actually minimum, or is it max distance? I'm gonna talk about, bro, max distance. No, I think it's min distance because this is the minimum distance needed. Wait, yeah, this is the minimum distance needed for them or for the server to, request boss health display, right? So min distance less than or equal to min distance. Wait, no, this is max distance. The maximum distance away from the boss for you to get that. Bro, it doesn't really matter what you guys call it, bro. I'm just overthinking it. Like, I always do this, bro. I don't know. So if distance is less than or equal to max distance, then we're gonna add it to the table. So we're gonna say local close players. So close players. So table.insert. We're gonna put the player in here, right? Or yeah, put the player in here, right? And then we're gonna return that player. So return close players. So here's just like setup, and then checking for close players. Just do that, and then yeah, we're returning. Right. All right. So now what we're gonna do is gonna have a loop. So local. Let me see. Run service dot render step connect function. You can't use render step on a server. It's heartbeat, not render step. Sorry. So yeah, run service dot heartbeat, and then we're gonna do the same thing. So local step time equals 0.5. This is actually constant because it doesn't change, right? It doesn't really change. So we're gonna do local step time 0.5, right? And then local, I'm gonna say elapsed equals 0. Sure. And then do delta time. Right, so elapsed plus equals delta time if elapsed is greater than or less than step time, then return, and then return end. Elapsed equals 0, right? So it's just loop constraints, and then it's the main, right? Let's make another function. Inside this function, we're gonna do local function request. Oh, so request boss, right? Or boss health display, right? And I'm gonna yeah, I'm gonna have another table here. I'm gonna call this close. Yeah, I'm gonna do close players. Yeah, I'm gonna do close players. And then do this, right? I'm gonna name this valid players. Or no, I'm gonna say displayed players. I don't know, right? And then leave this as close players, right? And then request boss display. This function is gonna call this function will call display on all the close players. So players. Now we're gonna do players. We're gonna do for nothing player in pairs players do. We're gonna say approach remote fire clients, and then inside this we're gonna say boss equals boss, right? And then player is it, what is it, max distance? It was max distance, right? And we're only gonna do that if we haven't already called them. So we're gonna say if not table.find if not table.find so if we don't find a player inside of the displayed players, right, then we do this. You know what I'm saying? So basically what this line does, this line checks to see if the player has already been, like if we've already fired the remote for that player, right? So we're just gonna say local close players equals request, I'm gonna say get nearest players, right? And then we're gonna do request boss display, and we're gonna pass in that table, right? Now we have to be really careful here. We also have to make sure we remove the player if they're not close. So else if table.find in the displayed players, if we find this player, then we remove it, right? So local index equals table.find, because table.find returns an index, and we're gonna say table.remove player. Well, in displayed players, we're gonna remove the player, so we're gonna pass in the index. So table.remove table and then index. All right. So here we're removing the player. If they are not close. I'm gonna just make this a separate function. So function remove player, and then we're gonna do this in here, right? I'm gonna just rename this as player, right? The reason why I'm making this its own separate function is because we're gonna call this multiple times. So instead of doing this, we're gonna do remove player, and then we're gonna pass in player. And same for this one. If you can't find the character for some reason, right? Instead of just skipping the iteration, or skipping the current iteration, we also want to remove the player just in case they're already in here. So we're gonna do remove player, and then we're gonna say player. Okay. And I think this should do that. Yeah, this should do that. So we have get nearest players, which is called here. We have request display, which is also called here. We have remove player, which is called inside of this function, right? And I think that should be it. So now it's testing and debugging time. Let's go and see what happens. Oh, there's already a problem. So we want to start off with this as false. So you can just do that inside the script just in case we ever forget it. We can do there's actually two more things. So first, we want to make sure that the health display is actually invisible. I'm gonna just do that manually. Nah, that's bad. I think we should also have it in the script too. So I'm gonna say we have the main library. I'm gonna make it just a function right here. I'm just gonna do library dot toggle display, and then let's do equals function, right? And then main frame dot visible equals toggle, right? And then this is just gonna be right here. This function makes the health, the main health frame visible or invisible, right? So every time we have main frame dot visible, we want to just do toggle. So we're gonna say library dot toggle library.toggle display, and we're gonna do true, right? Same thing for any of these. So false, and then same for this one. Oh no, that's different. Okay. The reason why I'm doing that is so that we can also call this out here. So before we start, we want to make sure you make that frame invisible. So we want to do frame library dot toggle display and then false. So we're gonna, just in case we leave it on, we're gonna make sure we turn the frame off. You understand? Okay. So there's also one more thing we want to make sure we do. Inside of the frame handler, we want to make sure we have a thing called current boss, and you want to do a check. So check if the current boss, if the current, this is just like a safeguard check. This is safeguard check, right? Actually, we can do that out there. We can do that out here, but we can do it in here. I mean, that's what I meant. But back in here, though, we want to make sure we also clear that out. So clearing current boss. So library.current boss equals nil, right? And then when we get that call, we want to say, so checking to see if the boss exists, and then checking if we are already connected to that boss. I don't know how to word it, but yes, we want to do if frame library dot current boss equals boss, then return n, because we don't want to run it twice. Alright, so now we can begin to see if our script is working, and we can start debugging now. Okay, starting it off. Okay, so unable to cast value to object. Fire client. Okay, so when we called fire client, we forgot to pass in the player as the variable. So you want to make sure when you're firing the client, you want to do player, or yeah, so player. It'll be player, right? Let me rename this to player just in case. It makes it easier to understand. So yeah, when you're firing the client, make sure you have the player as the first parameter. All right, now let's test it out. So we're not close yet. We're close, okay, but it says attempt to index nil with health. So when we call the on health change function, we have to make sure we pass in the humanoid. So find first shot, which is a humanoid boss model. Find first shot, which is a humanoid. So I spelled humanoid wrong here. That's the problem. So HUMANOID. Let's check it again. Boom. Now if you go too far, boom. Look at that. Okay, good. Let's do some checks. So I'm going to do this with the client because it doesn't really matter since it's not really checked. If I go to the boss and I take the health down, so if I take the health to like 4, you can see that it shows it up here. Look, oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I'm really tired. I've been recording for like an hour. But yeah, you can see that the health changes. 15, the health changes. If it's 30, the health changes. If I delete the boss, oh, okay. Oh, so the reason why, even though I deleted the boss, the reason why it's still working is because of the fact that we're doing all this server client-sided. Let me try this again. So I'm gonna just start a game of like 2 players, and then show you guys how this is gonna work. Okay. All right. So this is the server side, and then this is the client. Let me see if I can just kind of split screen this. So you can see here that this is the client, right? The client's not near the boss yet. Oh no, that's not the best thing. I'm just gonna edit that out. Okay, so you can see here that now the client is near the boss. I'm gonna change the boss's health on the server side. If the boss's health goes down to like 30, you can see that it's replicated on this client. It'll be the same for this client. So this client is not there yet, and now this client is there. You can see that he has the updated 30 HP for the boss as well. You can see that it's the same for both of these players. I'm going to change the boss's health to like 50, and you can see on both players the health increases. Right? Cool. Now if I delete the boss, right? Because normally when the boss dies, the character gets deleted. If I delete the boss, you can see that boom, the health display thing is gone because there is no model to continue. There's no model. There's no model on the server that checks to see if any players are close to request a boss health display. I'll probably do more tests with that and figure out how to record both my monitors so it just looks better, and it looks like the showcase looks better. But if you watch this walkthrough and got confused, I apologize. I'm not the best at explaining things, but I will get better over time. I hope this helps you guys. I'm gonna have this model. I'm gonna have a model with all the local script, server script, and all that stuff in the description below. If this does help you, if you don't mind leaving a like on the video and sharing the video, as well as leaving a like on the model itself, if you use the model, that'll be very much appreciated. If there's any bugs or any problems you guys have with this, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll try my best to solve those. But yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, take it easy, y'all.